Yeah, I'm pretty set here now.
Hey, you're on. You're on. Oops.
Okay. Thanks and welcome to uh, a Mission Possible Peru special. There is a reason why it's special. We're going to try and get some common sense together as a group about the new revelations that Keshe is coming out with in Italy in the university, the Keshe Foundation, and we've got a couple of people in the group that are following this very closely, so you'll be able to get a copy of this recording anytime shortly. And I just want us to all share a little bit of energy for Linda Live's sake. She's not in the best of health. Darko has been trying very much, and Lynn is by her side, and she's a great supporter of everything we do. She backs us up on everything we do at Mission Possible Peru. She's a wonderful lady. She's very weak at the moment, and even saying she's might not make it, but we want to tell her and we want to show her that we love her very, very much, and that she's the backbone of us, and we are going to be carrying on with or without Linda, but wherever she goes, she's going to be really well with us. And if anyone else would like to contribute by saying anything and give her a real big energy boost, please say so now in the group, because we love you very much, Linda.
We're with you, Linda.
Hang in there, Linda. We love you.
Yeah, for sure, Linda. I pray for you.
She got a hold of me yesterday. She wanted to be in here if she was feeling okay, so I'm hoping she'll show up.
Yeah, okay. I can send her the link to the room. Well, okay. We'll press on with that energy exchange for Linda, and I'm sure she'll get it one way or the other. One thing that we have got that I do notice, speaking with you, John, is that we've got a set system developing from Keshe that looks like ultimately it's going to create a reactor that can change the way we go about energy. Now, John, you've been looking into this. Can you put that in professional light? Can you say that better than me? Because I know what's coming, it's big, and we're going to be going through some of the details today. John?
Well, if anybody's been following the Keshe stuff, they know about what they're calling the star reactor, and that is a series of 4 little spinning balls in a certain configuration that have some goop inside, and they create a field of energy. They create a field of what's called maggrav energy, magnetic and gravitational fields around this star reactor. These have been out for quite a while. This is going to be, or this is, the core of the flight systems, the core of the energy systems. It is a very similar technology in the health and food systems that they're coming out with, although those two are somewhat different. Anybody who's familiar with the star reactors, what we're going to be bringing out today is a very simple step that you can take past that, adding to that technology that, according to the tests that are being done in Italy right now, provide an immense amount of power, usable electricity, ready to go. The system that they have running in Barrie right now, the last I saw of it earlier this morning, they had a 600 watt load on the reactor, and they were putting approximately 1.7 kilowatts back into the grid. Plus, the system was running itself. It was providing all the power it needed to run the star reactor, plus 2 large fans and a light to light up the face so they could photograph it. Now, this is phenomenal. This is what conventional physics would call impossible. It is what conventional physics would call over unity, where you are returning more energy than you're using. Now, this isn't perpetual motion by any stretch of the imagination, and in the strictest sense, it isn't over unity because we're actually only using a tiny, tiny fraction of the available energy within the mag-grav field that we're creating with the star reactor. And it is that immense amount of mag-grav energy that the star reactor is producing where we're getting the energy to put back into the wall. So you're not really producing any energy. You're simply collecting it from an infinite source. So it seems to be over unity. At first glance, you're going to look at it and go, wow, you're getting more out than in. But that's not really the case. You're getting a percentage of the input multiplied by a certain factor put back into the wall, but you're collecting from an infinite source. So in that case, the only way to have over unity is to have more than infinite return. So it's not necessarily over unity. But from what I've seen, the most difficult part of this whole process is the actual construction of the star reactor. One of the things we're going to be going over, I love building stuff. I'm a toolmaker by trade and do a lot of engineering. Dave will attest to that. I do quite a bit of his engineering down in Peru for him. I like doing stuff the simplest and most reliable way I can come up with. I love being able to do complex processes, complex machinery out of stuff I can scrounge out of the trash. Look around and find a stick that's just the right shape for the job I need to do. You don't need to spend a lot of money on this. You can, certainly. You're probably going to wind up with a much prettier reactor, but from all of the people that have been doing this, pretty doesn't matter. There's only a couple of little parameters that you have to pay attention to, and other than that, you can do it any way you want to. And that's the wonderful thing about the way Keshe is doing. One sec, Dave. It's a wonderful thing about the way Keshe is doing this is he's getting everybody to do it differently. So over time, we're coming up with the best way to do it because you don't have a group of engineers sitting down with their slide rules and drawing pictures and going, that's how it's done. You've got thousands and thousands of people, each one doing it a little bit differently, finding where the little problems are, how to solve those problems. And over time, we're going to wind up with a far superior product than any other possible manufacturing process that we could come up with.
So, John, do you think that we could use this recording of us as a group to as a manual for being able to build one? Do you think that's possible? Do you think that we can build them in the city in Peru?
Well, it depends on your level of understanding, I suppose. I don't have all of the information, so I can't make a definitive step-by-step ABC, this is why guide. So what we can do with this recording is we can have a basic start construction manual. This is one way to do it. If there's a part of this you don't understand, look at what it's supposed to do and come up with your own way to make it work that way. That is, as far as I'm concerned, that's the best way to go about this. Explain why we do this so that people understand what it's supposed to do, and then they can sit down and noodle about how to make what they've got available do what needs to be done.
Okay, well, I'm joined here. I've got Lars with me, and I've got
Lars.
And I've got Jack here scoffing his head off at the moment. So anyway, we've taken a little bit of instruction from you, and we've come up with a few little things that were the starting blocks. So should we have a little bit of a walkthrough of what we've done, where we got our information from, and how you got your information, and what we've got here based on, should we start with a little bit of sacred geometry? This is my mobile, and especially this little guy here. Now, you've told me that this sacred geometry is not absolutely crucial.
Oh, Dave crashed.
It's going to create its own. This figure, what's that called, John?
It's called the tetrahedron. And the star reactors that I've seen, the ones that are in function, that are working in Barry, Rick Crammond's machine here, I don't know if he's really got it to work yet or not, but they're all basically the same. They're set up in that tetrahedron fashion. I've seen them wide and flat, and I've seen them narrow and tall, but they all have 3 at the bottom and 1 in the center at the top, making that tetrahedron shape.
Right. So that's for anyone else who's interested and doesn't understand the tetrahedron. It's fire, isn't it? It's actually called fire. So it's like 4-sided 60-degree triangles. That's the tetrahedron. And what it looks like on plan, as the details you've showed me, is one reactor goes here, one goes here, and every point is covered with a reactor. But you said that you could do an even simpler version of that. You don't need to go the sacred geometry route. Is that right, John?
Well, I don't think, having the tetrahedron basic shape, that's what has been working. Now, if someone wants to experiment with a pyramid shape, 4 on the bottom and 1 on the top, with a octahedron, where you have 8 reactors around a ball, certainly, if you're curious, try it. I mean, if it's something that you're wondering about, give it a try, see what it does. That's the wonderful thing about this technology, is we're being given the tools to discover on our own, and in that way, there's no way anybody can control this, because if 5% of the population has an idea of how this works, especially if they're MacGyvers and they can just go to a junkyard and find what they need to build one, there is no way any one company or any one person can have a switch and shut it off.
Okay, well, Jack's joined us now, and he's stopped eating now, so maybe he can talk a little bit, but he's, well, I'd say 18 years old, aren't you? So we've got an 18-year-old on the case. What have you done? What have you made?
I made 4 of those reactors.
Just tell us what you've done there.
I glued, well, about what, 15 minutes ago I glued them.
Okay, so we just bought these ping pong balls, because the most important thing, John, is it's not a ping pong ball. Tell us what that could be as a replacement for these. It could be, what could it be, John?
Well, as mentioned in Keshe's latest, the big long workshop that happened earlier on today and yesterday, you can use a coconut, you can use fruit, you can use a sheep bladder, any essentially round nano-coatable thing, a glass ball, a plastic ball, anything that you can nano-coat on the inside will function as a. You don't have to have a ping pong ball. You don't have to have a machined piece of brass. You can use aluminum, you can use brass, you can use steel, you can use ceramic. The material, because we're not dealing in the matter state with this device, the matter is only a containment vessel. The matter you make it of really doesn't matter, or sorry for the pun, but it's not important. Like I said, you can use a coconut. A coconut, from what Keshe has been telling us, is already nano-coated. It's ready to go. You poke a hole in it, pour the stuff out, put your Gans in there, seal it up, spin it, and you got a reactor. It can be that. That's the one thing about this. It's not rocket science. It's plasma science, which is really.
Let's we've got Daniel, Sarah, and Susan and Boss in the room, with Carl as well, a couple of doors up the road here in Tarapoto in Peru. So at any one time you've got a question, as we're going to go and progress this, please ask, just flag up that you've got a question to ask, because what we need is questions really of what we're doing. And welcome to the show, Sarah, Susan, Daniel, and Boss. Welcome, Boss from Sweden, our 3D printing guy. Anyone got any questions at the moment before we're going to press on, because we're going to tell you what you can do with this and how we built this. John's got some pretty cool pictures as well. Any questions, Boss?
Yes, I have a question. I have really been following too good, but there was one guy, Adams, or what was it that had find his own solution for this new Keshe tech? Do you understand? I was reading some of the Skype rooms. There was some guy in London. I don't know who had really.
Yeah, I'm not sure who you're referring to. For referring to, boss, but if it comes to me, I'll bring it up again. If I may, please, if you're not going to be speaking at the moment, please mute. We're getting lots of background noise, and it makes it hard for the audience to listen to.
Okay.
Sarah, I'm going to have to mute you because I can hear your sync. So if you need to speak, unmute.
Yeah, and if you want to ask a question, just put your hand up so we can see it. For the ones that have got screens, Daniel, I know, hasn't. Sarah hasn't. But Susan, yours is a big green. I can't see you. I can see Carl and Boss, and of course you, John. I'll press on anyway. So, how did we make these, Jack? How did you get that together, and what they for? Because I'm going to show you it spinning. It should have. Actually, what I haven't done is I haven't painted on it so you can see it spinning. They've got a ball race in there, haven't they? Oh, this one, yeah, okay. We've got 4 of these. This is basically a ping pong ball and a cut plastic bottle with a ball race jammed in, on a thread. And you will now be able to see this spinning. The ball race that we managed to get from the 3D printer fitted exactly into that plastic bottle cap. John?
Yeah. For those who are looking for bearings, who are looking to do this, the bearing designation is a 608. And it's a standard skateboard bearing. If you just go to the skateboard guys, you can buy boxes like this of 8 bearings, which is enough to do 2 reactors. And they are exactly the right size. They're ready to go. The inside race is 5/16, so a 5/16 bolt or an 8mm bolt fits in beautifully.
We got 8mm bolts, Jack, haven't we? Yeah, we've even got some extendable ones today, because then we can consider either attaching it to this to keep them all, so one on every corner here, keeping it all the same distance apart, or we might go to your method, John, which is to make a base and put 3 in a triangle and then hang one over the top. So you've got yours there, John.
Yeah. So okay, let's dive into this in a big way. Let me share my screen and bring up the first picture, which is the creation of the Gans material. There's been lots and lots of people that have been questioning how to do the Gans. Where am I here? No, that's not what I want. Oh, there it is, green button. And I want, what do I want? Why isn't it here? Desktop 1. Okay, bring this back up. Okay, here's the first image, and this is basic, the basic process where you begin to produce the materials you require to make the power unit, to make the reactor functionable. The first thing you need to learn how to do is nano coating. Now, there's a couple of ways you can do this. You can do it with sodium hydroxide, caustic soda for those of us who are chemistry, or lye. If you know soap makers, you can get the lye from the soap makers. It's all the same stuff. And it's very simple to nano coat the materials. You have a small container with a rack inside the container to keep whatever you put in it up off the bottom. I just use chicken wire. And you can use a coat hanger. You can cut it and bend it and make yourself a little rack for it. It doesn't really matter. None of this is that critical. Chicken wire works just fine. Anything like that. Even stainless steel will do the job. But you want to be able to hold whatever you're going to nano coat up off the bottom of the container. Now, you put a measure of caustic soda in the bottom of your plastic container. I just use basic Rubbermaid storage units, storage tanks that you have a nice tight fitting lid. enough caustic to basically just cover the bottom of the container. You don't need a whole lot. And then you put your rack in, put your material that you're going to nano coat. Your first thing you're going to be nano coating is copper. You can either use, if anybody can see my window, you can nano coat little copper scrubbies, which work. I'm using them right now. Or you can buy a plate, a copper sheet. They use them for roofing, art stuff. There's all kinds of different ways to do this. You're going to want to nano coat a copper sheet, and you're also, or a piece of copper, and you're also going to want to nano coat a piece of brass. So when you're looking for your copper, if you can find a piece of brass sheet, grab that as well, because that'll come up in the next step. But the brass is important. Now you put your caustic in your container, put your rack down, put your plate on that container, and then you cover the plate with boiling water. Now be very careful when you do this, and do it with the lid mostly on. Leave just enough space so that you can pour the water in, because you want to maintain the steam inside this container. And the reaction is kind of violent. So don't be surprised when you pour the water in that it just boils like mad. So be prepared. It's hot. You can get hurt doing this. So be very careful doing this. If it scares you, do it in a very small way to see how the reaction is going to happen first before you go into a big one. But you put in enough water to cover whatever you're going to nano coat. Clip the lid on nice and tight and leave it overnight.
Okay, John, Darko was saying that he thinks that you could, and I see there's a picture here of a stovetop flame.
I'll be getting to that in a minute. This is the original one. This is the one that most of us are using right now. And for people in the cities, people in the Western world, in the developed countries where they have access to the sodium hydroxide, this is a really, really good way to do this. Once you leave it for 24 hours, and then you drain that spent sodium hydroxide off, just discard it. You're not going to be using it anymore. I toss mine out out for weed control, and make sure you wear gloves, because sodium hydroxide is very, very caustic, and it will burn your fingers, burn your skin. Rinse the container out with clean water. Distilled water is best. If you don't have it, you can probably get away without it, but everybody that is doing this in a big way, we're all using distilled water, and we're having good success with this. The second coating that you put on this is almost exactly the same. You use about 1/3 less caustic in the bottom of your container, and you only put enough in so that, or you put enough in so that you almost touch the device or whatever you're going to be nano coating. You want to steam it at this point. You don't want it under the liquid anymore. Leave it again for 24 hours, same process as before, and then you do that a third time. Once it's done a third time, it's basically nano coated. Whatever you have in there that you're nano coating should be a very deep black. This is what you want. The black indicates that it's absorbing all the fields. Okay, there will be some shine to it. Most of it's going to be very, very, very black. This should be the same for copper, for zinc, for brass, whatever you're going to nano coat. And once that's done, then you drain the water off, drain almost all of the water off, sorry. Put the system back together and put the lid back on, but leave it open just a little tiny bit so that it will dry very, very slowly. Once it's dry, it's ready to be used. Now, the second version that Dave brought up, that just came up, the Alex from England, originally from Africa, found out that you can also do the nano coating. If you don't have access to the sodium hydroxide, or you have some problems, you can do the nano coating with fire, where you heat your material that you want to nano coat up. You heat it up very, very hot, and then you quench it in cold water. And you do this repeatedly for about a half an hour. And you heat it up and you quench it. You heat it up and you quench it over and over and over again until it's all nice and black. You get the same effect And for folks in the bush, folks in Africa, say India, or any of the countries that aren't developed, where you're not going to be able to get the chemicals that you need to do an actual chemical process, you can do it with fire. And you can do it with wood fires, charcoal, any of that stuff works. It's when I heard this yesterday when I was listening to the workshop, what came to my mind is, I wonder if the Egyptians did this for their power systems, because we know they had some sort of a power system. And people think it was simply a Baghdad battery, but I'm quite certain that it was something far more sophisticated than a Baghdad battery. But what you see on the screen right now, it says nano coating without NaOH or caustic or low current AC. And the method is very, very simple. You take your material, you heat it very, very hot, and you quench it in cold water repeatedly. And it's done. Once you have the nano-coated materials and they're ready to go, then on the lower part of this picture that you can see on the screen, we have on the left-hand side CO2 Gans production, where you've got a zinc plate and the nano-coated copper plate in your distilled water plus sea salt at roughly 15% by volume. So 15 milliliters per 100 milliliters of water. And you connect the two together with a piece of copper wire. The picture shows that there's an LED light in the circuit in between the two plates. This is a new thing. I haven't tried it myself. I know just a regular piece of wire will work. And what you're going to get out of the CO2 after 3-4 days is you're going to get a white fluffy goo in the bottom of your container. And you want to draw that stuff off with a syringe and stick it in a bottle and wash it. There's instructions about washing it on the net all over the place. And store that, put it away. The next one, the CH3 GAN, it's exactly the same process. They've got it shown with a nano-coated copper wire, but a plate will work just as well. And instead of using a zinc plate, we're using an ironed nail or a steel nail. Now, we don't want a galvanized nail for this. We want a plain steel 10-penny framing nail. Basic, simple. The shiny ones, they look like they're new, no powder coating or any of that stuff on it. And what you're going to get out of that is, like the color shows, it's kind of a reddy orange. And this is CH3 GANs. And this is one of the other GANs you want for your star reactors. The copper oxide is, again, the same process, but this time you're using 2 nano-coated copper plates. Or what we found out just recently is you can do it with zinc as well, but you put the zinc on the outside of the container. And I have one sitting on my table right now that's producing copper oxide GANs in that fashion, and it's working really, really well. These 3 GANs are what you're going to be eventually putting in your ping pong balls. That's the material you're going to be using to create the mag-grav field. Again, there's a ton of information on this. We can't really go into extreme detail, but if there are any questions about, I don't know about specifics about how to tell, because I don't have the chemistry background to be able to tell. We go by the colors. If you got a white goo, a red goo, and a green or a blue goo, you're good. It's been
John, can I ask you to raise the screen, the picture, so we can see those 3 that you're talking about?
I can't move any of this stuff.
Oh,
Okay, I just have a quick question about that. So you actually need all those 3, right?
You will need the 3 of those, yes, for your star reactors. This is what's going inside the little ball that spins.
Okay.
Okay. Now for the second set of this, for the power system, you need to make another type of GANs, and this is where the brass comes in. You want to nano coat the brass, and you use how did they do that now? I can't remember if it was nano-coated copper or nano-coated brass, or nano-coated brass and zinc. I think it's probably nano-coated brass and zinc. I'll have to go back and listen to the presentation again. But what you
That's
get,
what I heard. That's what I heard Jay say. Is exactly
Okay.
what you just
okay, good. What you get from the nano-coated brass is a compound GANs. It's not a pure anything. It looks like pepper that's been sprinkled into flour. You get this white goo with black specks and weird colors in it, and because it's a mixture of a bunch of different kinds of GANSes. And this is the material you need for your small energy cells, which is the next step in the process. And this sheet here, I'm hoping you can see it all. I'm wondering if I go to, does that look better on your screens now? Uh-oh.
Yeah,
Am I not?
Starting to look better. It looks like if you can raise it a little bit more, we'll see the bottom.
My whole screen, Dave. That's my whole screen, Dave. It's got to be, if you can move it on, you might be able to move it on your end. But I can't, that's the whole screen. I don't have any way to raise it.
Okay.
Okay, anyway, once you have your brass GANs, then you're ready to start making the each individual little element of the power cells. And this is the new thing that's just come out in the last couple of days, which is the coolest thing since sliced bread. A lot of folks who have been following this, about 2 months ago, we were making little power cells. We were using a piece of nano-coated copper wire, putting CO2 GANs in it, wrapping that up in a piece of tin foil, and actually getting energy out of it. It was very small, but it was a proof of concept. This does work. This is the next step, which actually produces about 5 times the energy of the first ones that came out. In the material list, you need nano-coated copper wire. They don't have to be very long. 2.5, 3 inches is fine. You need a lot of them. Probably 20, 30. Make a bunch because they're always useful. You need some aluminum foil. You need some tissue paper, medical gauze, fiberglass window screen, anything like that. Should be non-conductive. Now, the conductive probably doesn't matter, but we should stay with what works, and we know this works, so let's stay with non-conductive. You'll need some zinc sheet, which if you go to the lumber yard or the home construction businesses like Home Depot or Revy or Rona, they will have rolls of zinc that they use to control moss on roofs. Down in Peru, I'm not sure if that would be the same thing, but you can pretty much get rolls, sheet zinc anywhere, like all over the world. You shouldn't have a problem finding that. You do need some caustic, sodium hydroxide. You don't need very much. It's a little teeny tiny bit for each one of these little cells. You need a little bit of plain old white sugar, Darko's death stuff. He doesn't like sugar at all, and most of the holistic doctors are telling you don't ever go near it. But in this instance, it's a very, very good source of energy for your cells. So you need a little tiny bit of sugar, and you need some nano titanium dioxide GANs, which is actually really, really easy to do. You buy titanium dioxide powder, which you can get. It's a pigment. There's a million different uses for it. But if you look, I haven't done the research, so I can't recommend specific places to go get it. But I'm sure if you Google titanium dioxide powder, you will find lots of sources for it. The way you make the GANs is you mix the powder in with warm or hot liquid caustic solution. So you put some caustic in a jar, pour some hot water in. When it quits bubbling, you put your titanium dioxide in, give it a good shake. What settles to the bottom is your titanium dioxide GAN. So you want to collect that up, dry it out, and it won't actually get dry. It's going to turn into a very stiff putty, and this is good. That's what you want. Your brass GANs, you want to collect that out of once you've made the GANs the same way we made the other 3 GANSes, exactly the same way, but you want to dry it out completely. It needs to be very, very, very dry. Now, once you have those elements, the bottom ones here, CH3, CO2, and copper oxide GANs, those are for your reactor, which they're not going into these cells. Now, the first thing you want to do is mix the titanium dioxide putty, the dry brass Gans, the sugar in about equal quantities. So 1 part sugar, 1 part titanium dioxide Gans, 1 part brass Gans, and about 1/4 part dry caustic powder. Mix these up really good. So it's, again, back into a putty, which you'll find when you mix this, it may heat up. It may bubble a little bit. If it does, that's because there's some water in either your titanium dioxide or your brass Gans still. Because sodium hydroxide, when it mixes with water, it's an exothermic reaction. It generates heat. So that's why it's such a violent reaction when you put boiling water into it. Because all of a sudden the water has to go up to way over boiling point. So it just goes crazy. So if it gets hot or it starts to bubble, you've got some water in there, and you don't really want to do that. It shouldn't bubble. It shouldn't get hot. It should just mix up into goo, and try not to mix it with your fingers. Use a nail or a stainless steel knife or something like that to mix this really, really well. Once you have that mixed, you take a piece of tissue paper, size, maybe 1 inch by 2 inches. That's probably even too big, maybe 1 inch by 1/2 inch. It depends on what size of cell you want to make. Experiment a little bit, because none of this is written in stone and it's all going to work. You put a layer of this goop that you've just mixed up onto your tissue paper. Doesn't have to be thick, just a nice smooth layer, just peanut butter painted on there. Put your piece of nano-coated copper wire in that and roll that up nice and tight. Make that a nice tight little package. It should look like a little white firecracker. Then take the aluminum foil and wrap that around that package of tissue paper that you've just got. And you want to be careful that you don't run the aluminum foil past the ends of where your tissue is. You're better off to have a little tiny bit of the tissue sticking out the ends than not having any sticking out the ends. And wrap that up really nice, and then wrap it again in a little thin strip of the zinc sheet. And again, you cut it whatever size you're making your cells, you cut it to suit. Now you want this to be a really tight, snug, solid package. The zinc, you'll find, is quite soft, quite malleable, so you may have a little bit of trouble getting it squeezed really, really, really tight. So one idea that I came up with, I haven't tested it, I don't know if it's going to work, or I don't know if it's going to damage the cell, would be to use a little short piece of heat shrink tubing. One that's slightly shorter than the cell itself. So you slip the cell into the heat shrink tubing and heat it up. What that's going to do is squeeze that cell really, really tight. And hold it really, really tight, which is making it the most efficient as you can. But you need to have access to the zinc sheet, because that's your negative pole of this, and you need to make connections to that. So if you're going to do that, think ahead, put a little piece of wire in there so you can have a direct connection to the zinc sheet. And in that case, if you're going to do that, you'll have the nano-coated wire coming out one end, which is your positive, or what we will call positive. And then you would have either the zinc sheet around the outside or another wire coming out the other end as your negative contact, or what we call the negative contact. And you make a bunch of these. Make a lot, because you're going to be using a lot. One cell, when they tested the one cell, what they made right in the video, they got, I think it was 1.6 or 1.5 or 1.6 volts out of this one cell, which is way more than we were getting with the old cells. And that's attributed to the compound Gans made from the brass. That's it. That's basically, if you can make those two things, other than the structure of the actual reactor itself, you're making a power system that has an immense amount of energy. Now, the power system itself, I'll bring this picture up. And, I can't do it from there. I got to do it from here. View, full screen preview. Okay. Each one of these little squares, these two, and all of these little squares around in these loops are individual little cells that I just described how to make. The two on the two big ones here, they don't have to be big ones. That's just how it was drawn. They're all basically the same size. But the two on the end, you take a piece of nano-coated copper wire and you wrap around the nano wire that's sticking out of the cell, the positive pole of that cell, and then wrap that same wire around the zinc on the same cell. Anyone who knows anything about batteries or electricity is going to go, well, why would you do that? You're going to short the system out. And that's not quite how it works, because we're not dealing with conventional physics here. We're dealing with a brand new kind of physics where a lot of the old rules don't apply. So you don't even think of it as matter, as regular electricity, because it doesn't work that way. This has been shown. They built one on the video, and this is how it works. So we wrap a piece of nano-coated wire around the nano wire that's coming out of the cell, then around the cell itself. Then you can take a second wire, or if the first wire you have is long enough, wrap that, connect it to the negative of a second cell. So you have this would be pretty self-explanatory. The output would be that wire that you just wrapped on the second cell. That would be a negative pole. The positive pole would be the nano wire that's coming out of that second cell. Now, once that's built, set it aside because you'll be using it in a minute. Make two chains of cells, positive to negative, however many. In this drawing, we have 8 on the inside and 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13 on the outside. I think one has to be smaller than the other, but I'm not certain about actual quantities or ratios between the two. Again, experiment a little bit. If you make one of 8, one of 16, one of 8, one of 12, one of 8, one of an odd number like 13, see what they do. See what sort of differences you have, because that's part of what we're doing right now is experimenting with this and finding what works. So anyway, you make your two chains, however long they are. The longest one is connected from the positive of one of your cells that you've got connected together to the positive of the cell that's connected to the first one. The smaller chain, both ends of that chain are connected to the positive pole of that one cell. Okay, just exactly like we see in the picture. Now, again, anybody who thinks about this in conventional electronics is going to look at this and go, that's just ridiculous. And I would totally agree if you think about this in conventional electronics, but this isn't. This is field physics, plasma physics. It's brand new. And what you're building is this inside loop is a collector for the gravitational field. The outside loop is a collector for the magnetic field that you're going to be producing with your tetrahedron reactor, your star reactor. The output of this, you've got the negative wire that you've got connecting the two primary cells together becomes your negative pole. The output of that same cell on the top is your positive pole. This is where you're going to connect it to a battery or plug it into the wall, into your 110 volt. The positive pole of the first of the top cell here, and the positive pole of your bottom cell, where you have your one loop and one end of the loop connected to. This is where you're going to be drawing your load from. This is where you're going to be getting your energy to plug things in. If you're going to plug in lights or fans or a computer or a fridge, here and here is where you're going to be getting your energy from. The system they had running in Barrie, and it's still running now as far as I understand, they were drawing from here 600 watts, and they were returning back to the grid 1.7 kilowatts. So by collecting the maggrav field that's being produced by your star tetrahedron reactor with this specially formed loop, not only are you able to drive the reactor itself and a bunch of other things, lights, camera action, fridges, computers, whatever you want, you're still collecting enough energy to put more back into the wall than you're drawing out of the wall. It's an amazing system. This reactor here, this is the same as your star reactors. It's just one single unit. And what it does is it deforms the field that's being created by your star reactor. So if you have the star reactor on one side of this assembly and a single reactor on the other side of this assembly, the single reactor is going to draw the maggrav field towards it right through your device, and it makes it way more efficient. Now keep in mind that this is the very first iteration of this technology. This is the first time we're doing this. There's probably going to be better ways to do this coming up in the future as we experiment, as we build and discover and learn about this thing. Again, like I was saying, we may find that we want an even number on the inside and a prime number on the outside, or a multiple on the outside. We don't know yet. We haven't done those experiments. We haven't played with that. But if you just make, say 15 or 20 on the outside and 8 or 10 on the inside, it's going to work for you. It may not be optimum, but it will do exactly what we're showing, because we're showing it live on the Keshe website. If you go to the live stream, they have well, I don't know if they still have it on now today, but they had the system on camera live, and you could watch the numbers change. Now, something to keep in mind, it takes time for your fields from your star reactor to build up, anywhere from 24 to 36 hours, depending upon your conditions, speeds, what's around it. There's a whole bunch of things that you have to think of, but it takes time for that to build up. It takes time for your single reactor field to build up, and it takes time for your collector to, what would be the word, condition to the energy that you want. Now, if you don't have this thing plugged into the wall, what you're going to get on the output is DC. If you plug it into a 12-volt battery, a volt-and-a-half battery, it doesn't matter, you're going to get DC. If you plug it into the wall, it will condition itself to provide AC for regular motors or fridges, or anything that requires alternating current. Light bulb doesn't require alternating current, but a motor, an AC motor, does. If you try to put DC in an AC motor, it's not going to go anywhere. But that's one of the things I don't understand quite yet, but I think it's very, very interesting, is depending upon how you configure your input/output determines how this device provides your energy. And I was asked earlier if there's a way if the voltage matters, and it doesn't seem to make a whole lot of difference. I would expect it's either outputting compatible voltage to whatever you're inputting, or if you don't have it connected to any original electrical source, that because you're not dealing with conventional electricity, you're dealing with plasma energy, it's going to tailor itself to whatever load you put on it. Now, again, this is something that needs to experiment. So when you first build this thing and you first plug it in, hook up something you don't care about, because it just might go poof. Let's not blow up your computer and blame me because I didn't explain it right. We don't know. We have an idea, but until we actually do it, we're not really going to be sure about how this actually works. But it is that simple. Now, the mechanics of building your star reactor, I think that's the next thing we're going to get into. And there isn't a lot of information about that on the net, because nobody's really concentrated on how can the regular guy just make their own star reactor. And again, it's from what I've seen, what I've done, it's very simple. It requires a little ingenuity, a little artistic. You gotta get creative. And that's what I really like about a lot of this technology, is it allows you to get creative, and you can go, well, I don't want to do it that way. I want to do it this way, and it's still going to work. You don't have to, there isn't a specific recipe to make this work. There's only a few little parameters you have to keep in mind. But other than honoring those parameters, you build it any way you want. It's not gonna make a whole lot of difference. So I'm gonna stop my screen share now. And if anybody wants these drawings, these are taken off the Facebook site called The Golden Age of Gans. It's an open page. You can go in there. There's lots of information in there. And these drawings and the pictures, they are on that site. You can go and get them and download them yourself for reference. There's lots of people on the site who are more than happy to help and answer questions if anybody has questions. And we'll be more than happy to show up and ask questions. We'll be happy to talk to you and get you moving on this. So Dave, that's the primer on the chemistry end of this, how to get the raw materials. Now let's go into how we're going to use those raw materials.
I have a question.
Okay.
So the concept you just presented, you need some input voltage.
You don't
right?
need it. No, you don't need an input voltage. This thing will produce power all by itself, but you can put an input voltage in to condition the power to a specific purpose.
So if you don't have an input voltage, what will you produce?
Kilowatts.
Would you produce AC or DC or what?
At native DC.
Okay.
But if you condition it with AC input, you will get an AC output.
Okay.
Which I'm still working on figuring that out. I haven't quite got it yet, but
it's a bit maddening to me, but
yeah, it's totally counterintuitive to anybody who has any electrical background. They look at this and they go, "That is not going to work."
yeah.
But it does work. I've watched them build the system live, right from start to finish, and it does work. It does do what they say it's going to do.
Okay, fine.
Okay, so JC, if you if I used four 12-volt batteries on the input side and the 12-volt batteries were hooked up in series so that I had 48 volts, then that would condition the thing to give me a steady 48 volts to run a controller to spin a bicycle motor.
In theory, yes. What was mentioned on the last of the workshops was they had it hooked up to a 12-volt battery and they were getting 18 volts out. So it may be the ratio between the cells in the loops. It may be the quantity of cell in the loops. We don't know. We'll have to play around with that a little bit.
Okay. Okay. Well, these bicycle controllers are very forgiving. Normally you buy them with a range of voltages, and normally the range is something like 24 to 48 volts. Of course, it'll go higher than 48 volts without.
Yeah, I've seen them up to 60 for $50.
Yeah, 60. You can get them from 36 volts up to 100 volts. You know. So yeah.
Yeah, so it's all pretty forgiving, and that was one of the things that I was really, really looking at is for electric cars. Now, the fella from Britain who brought this technology forward he's got one of these running in his car, and what he found, or what he's describing, is that when he's driving his car, it feels very, very light. And the steering, it feels like it was on rails. So Maran was saying that there is a component of lift within this system. And part of it is the configuration, the way he's got his car set up, because he's got Gans in his gas tank along with some gasoline. And then he's got his reactor, a single reactor, sitting next to him in the passenger compartment. And the loops of cells basically hanging on the front of his dashboard, plugged into a cigarette lighter. And he's virtually no gasoline whatsoever. And his car, the whole handling characteristic of his car has changed. So this is very, very interesting. Now, if
And
this,
he's running he's not running electric motors in the car. He's running a gasoline engine.
from what I understand, he's still got a gas engine in the car.
Wow.
Now, there's no reason why we can't have a closed system with a big ass electric motor up front, hooked to your 4-speed transmission or your automatic or whatever it is, and drive the whole thing electric. I don't see why that won't work. And we could probably do that if you're using, say, a forklift, a 10-horse forklift motor, which is pretty common. That's pretty much what a lot of the homemade electric vehicles are made out of. Or in the case of yours, I think you're using a model helicopter motor.
Well, I've got one on my trike, but what I'm really thinking of is two bicycle hub motors, the heavy duty ones,
Okay.
to run these motor cars.
Okay. So in that instance,
And I'm thinking of running them for 4 kilowatts each.
okay. In that instance, what I'm seeing at first glance on this, again, don't quote me because we haven't done it yet. We have to do it a couple of times and find out if it's going to work. But it looks like it should work. With say you're using a 48-volt bicycle hub motor, you would have 4 small 12-volt batteries, so you have a 48-volt source, but you'll never deplete those 12-volt batteries because you're not drawing from them. They're only being used to condition the energy of your collector. All of the energy that motors are running is coming from the collector. Now, one of the things that came to my mind when I'm thinking about this is the system is going to want to pump energy back into the battery. So you may be boiling off batteries. I don't know. That's something that needs to be investigated. But it does seem plausible. It seems feasible that this should function the way we expect it to.
Yeah.
And it's a simple enough system. I mean, to test it, you get a motorcycle battery, you get a 12-volt motor, you hook it up, you let the motor run, put a load on the motor a few times and see if it boils the battery off. I mean, if it doesn't do that, you can make a big one. Run your car on it.
Right.
Dave looked like he wanted to say something. What's up there, Dave?
Yeah, John, can I go back to the brass for a moment? Jack and I had a discussion about the brass, and we were like, no, that's bronze, that's not brass, and stuff like that. Now, remember the ram pump I made, and we had some swinging check valves. I think they're brass. Can you correct me if I'm wrong?
Okay. If you need to find the difference between brass and bronze, you need to be very good at seeing colors. Take your unknown material. I don't have a piece here that I can do this with, but take your unknown material and scratch whatever coating is off of it, because quite often old brass looks like new bronze, just at first glance. Okay, it's basically the same thing. Brass is copper and zinc, bronze is copper and iron. But scratch it off.
Can you repeat that, John, just for us thickies? Could you just repeat that?
Brass is copper and zinc. Bronze is copper and iron.
Copper and iron. Oh, I never knew that. Okay, thank you.
Okay, those are the alloying elements.
What's for bronze then?
Sorry?
What's phosphor bronze?
It's copper, iron, and phosphorus.
Oh, okay.
Okay, it's an extra alloying element. But scratch it off so you get down into the pure metal. Brass is going to be a bright yellow, almost like gold. Not quite orange or as gold, not quite as bright as gold, but it's going to be a very goldish yellow. Bronze is going to be kind of a browny orange, almost the color of your shirt.
You got it the wrong way around. Yeah, that's good. So it looks like we found shops that have got quite a lot of brass in them now, because that was the debate. We didn't know the yellow and the red, and in actual fact, what we thought was bronze was in actual fact now brass by the sound of things. So we can, I mean, can you pick up one of these items and like the swinging check valve and use that to nano coat it, or take the gate off it, or
It's a chunk of brass. Sure. You could go to a junk shop and find a brass ornament sitting on the shelf for $1, and you take it home and you scratch all of the coating off of it and nano coat that. It's just raw materials at this point. If you can get a sheet, get a sheet. It's easy, it's quick, it's fast. If you need to recoat it, you sand it, clean all of the other stuff off, and recoat it. It's just the material that you're looking for. The shape of it doesn't matter. I don't really think the quantity matters so much. Whereas if you go too small, it's just going to take a long, long time because you don't have a very strong field. But you can get anybody who's gone into any secondhand shop or flea market, you're going to find brass. And it's that bright yellow, gold color ornament stuff. You see bowls, brass bowls, figurines, all kinds of things. And you can be pretty much assured that if it's a piece of art, it's not going to be bronze unless it's really big.
I'm just thinking what we could, when you were showing the daisy chain of what Keshe calls the beads outside the 4-star reactor. Yeah, that picture you've got up there. Now, it looks like we're going to have to be mass producing these. And when I was speaking to Darko, he said we really need to get into the making of the Gans, because what you showed there is really, this is the bit where I'm having headaches trying to wrap my head around it. And it's probably the most important part. I mean, the whole thing is a chain from when you get the tetrahedron reactors, and then you're creating an atmosphere like an auric field, aren't you? That's what you were saying before, John. You're creating an auric field, and that then reacts to the daisy chain of beads, Keshe beads, and we're going to have to be mass producing them like 24 every time you have a generator or a plasma reactor, whatever you want to call this thing.
Yeah. And just for clarity, the entire system, this entire chain of beads, is probably going to use maybe 1/4 or possibly 3/8 of a cup of your Gans. So you're not using very much material.
Can you give us some time limits? How long it takes you that you've been experimenting with Gans, the different types of Gans? And there's a couple of people in the room that have been doing this as well. And if they want to contribute, please let them speak up.
Well, I haven't done the brass yet. That's going to be my next one that I'm making, because I've got my copper oxide on the table running. I've got another nano-coated scrubby ready to go. I just need to get a hold of some brass and nano-coat that, and that'll be my next batch of Gans to make. But the copper oxide is pretty slow. It's going to take probably, I'd say, 10 days to 2 weeks to collect enough to work in a small, like a ping pong ball size reactor. I would think the brass Gans is probably a week, 10 days, somewhere in there. I think that would be safe to say. You're still muted, my friend.
Okay, no, thanks for that, because this is one of the patient things that we need to be patient about is the Gans. And again, if anyone, Sarah or Susan, I know you're trying, Daniel, I don't know how far you've got with making your different forms of Gans. Dan, do you want to say anything about that?
Yeah.
Or Sarah, start with you, Dan. Anything to say on that?
Yeah, I'd started, but I guess I was cutting you off, Dave. No, I thought I'd made CO2 Gans because essentially, initially when I got my kit, or one of them, I immersed the zinc in the salt water along with the nano-coated copper, and immediately started getting what I thought was CO2 Gans. And at one point, we're going to have to make CO2 GANs into a nano state by adding vinegar or acetic acid or caustic, whichever is going to give you the best results. And then you end up with the GANs in the nano state with a black color. Well, when I tried to add the vinegar, it all disappeared. So obviously it was not CO2 GANs. It was zinc oxide.
I'm not sorry to interrupt. I'm not so sure about requirement to have the pre-graphene, because that's basically what you're doing. You're taking the carbon dioxide and you're stripping the oxygen off it, and what you're left with is atomic carbon particles. Now, which is essentially graphene that's not stuck to anything. I'm not certain that is a requirement. It appears that for these energy systems, we can get away without it.
Well, it is once you start getting into the medical reactors, JC, because you need the three states. You need the GANs, you need the dry, and you also need the nano. So if you're not getting the nano, then you don't really, as far as I can see, you don't have the CO2 GANs or any GANs really for that matter. So essentially, the key is that I've now placed my copper and my zinc plates outside, and I'm waiting to see. It's very, very slow. So you're saying maybe 7 to 10 days. It may take that long to produce CO2. I'm not sure. So I'm still experimenting with the salinity of the water. I started with 40. I was going to do 20, but then I realized now maybe it's closer to the salinity of seawater if I go 40. So I may increase the salinity. I'm getting some sort of bubbles. What it looks like it could be some sort of formation along the bottom and the sides of the container, but when I look closely, and I don't have a magnifying glass, it could simply be bubbles. I don't know. So we'll leave it overnight, see what the result is, and
Oh, we lose Daniel?
Oh, we lost you there, Daniel.
I think he was pretty much done talking. One of the things that I would like to put a call out for anybody who's listening to this, if you have had success with CO2 GANs and you're certain it's CO2 GANs, you do the caustic or the vinegar test, you get the black powder, it doesn't all just disappear, please get a hold of one of us. I'm on the 3D Printer Free Energy group on Skype. I'm on the Keshe Knowledge Sharing group on Skype. I'm on the Global Keshe Knowledge Sharing on Facebook, the Golden Age of GANs on Facebook, and the Canadian Knowledge Sharing Network on Facebook. Please get a hold of us so that we can compare notes and find out what we're doing that's causing us to get zinc oxide GANs instead of CO2 GANs. This is one thing that there's been a whole lot of people who are really confused and they don't understand. They follow the instructions. They've done their 15% by volume. They did everything right, but they're not getting the results that are expected. And we need to get some minds together and find out why that's happening so that we can design a better system, better processes that are more reliable.
Okay, I got a question. The salt to use with the distilled water, what kind of salt do you use? You don't use table salt, I think.
I've used 3 different kinds of salt. I've used regular table salt, I've used gray sea salt, and I've used pink sea salt, and I have pretty much the same results with all of them.
Really?
Yep. The gray sea salt was faster. Then the next one was the pink sea salt, and the third was the regular iodized table salt.
Sarah, I know that you've been trying to, with your GANs experiment. Can you share anything with us on this particular post?
I have, I tried the putting both plates outside my kit, and I got 0. Now, I didn't leave it longer than a week. It may have produced something after that, but I gave up on it after a week. I did also put the nano-coated copper plate inside in the water with the zinc plate outside and got the same result that JC got, which is the copper oxide, aqua colored stuff. And it's very slow compared to the original instructions where both plates are inside and we were going for carbon dioxide GANs and we think we got zinc oxide instead. We don't really know for sure. I did the vinegar test and it all disappeared. So I really don't know what I got. I've heard 2 or 3 different people tell me 2 or 3 different things. I don't know for sure. I've got no way of knowing unless Mr. Keshe says, yes, it's GANs, whether what I got was GANs or not. I don't know whether it's CO2 GANs, zinc oxide. I don't know if oxide is a GANs. I don't know, and JC says it doesn't matter. It still works. So I really don't know what I've got. But I have made the white fluffy stuff. I have made the copper oxide. And I am now, just at the beginning of this call, poured my saltwater solution into my kit with 3, I don't know if they're iron or steel or a combination, nails tied together with a copper wire in the salt water with a nano-coated copper plate to make the CH3. And I just went and looked at it, and I see this beautiful golden colored color in the water, which is apparently something coming from that's happening. It's almost like you put food coloring in water and you see it, moving through the water. But that was for the beginning of this call. I poured the water in and I can already see something happening. As far as accumulation, I don't know how long it will take. Okay. But I'm working on it.
Okay. As far as the test goes, what we were saying before, where you take the white fluffy stuff you're getting that you think is CO2 GANs and you mix it with your vinegar or your caustic and it all disappears.
Right.
I've done that twice now. The first time I did it, it all disappeared completely. The second time I did it, this is the caustic solution, but if you see on the bottom, I still have a precipitate on the bottom. I'll stir it up a little bit so you can see it move. And it's not.
We can't hear you, John, when you're doing that. So
yeah, it's this mic. The microphone is very, very directional. I'll switch arms, and I got long arms. But what I'm getting is it's kind of the computer doesn't give the color justice. It's not brown. It's kind of an odd sort of a weird gray. But it all didn't disappear. And it all didn't turn black like I would expect carbon dioxide to do. So I may have something else here. But this is caustic solution, and that's been sitting about 2 weeks in the caustic.
When you say caustic, are you putting like dry caustic sprinkled in, or are you taking caustic that, because I had caustic solution that was left over from my nano coating.
Okay, what I did with this and with the other one was I put the GANs in the jar, and then in a separate container, I put dry caustic in, poured in boiling water, let it finish reacting, and then poured that into the jar.
Okay, because I didn't do that. I haven't tried that yet. I'll try that and see what happens.
Okay,
and see what I get.
My method may be wrong. That may be why I'm getting really odd results. But nobody has come up with this result yet.
Right.
Aware of. So this is unique. That's why I'm curious about it, and that's why I'm bringing it out. Just if somebody has any ideas or possibilities, let us know. Please let us know, because that's what it's all about: sharing knowledge and learning stuff.
Yeah.
So
Sorry, guys.
Go ahead, Dan.
Go ahead, Jake. Oh, yeah, my power went out, so I cut out inadvertently there. So if you can just go back over what you were mentioning Sarah and JC, it seems interesting. I'm catching sort of the end of it.
Oh, well, what we're bringing up is when there's been a number of people who have purchased the kits, followed the instructions religiously, and when they did the test or the second conversion to get a nano carbon, all of their GANs disappeared. It just dissolved, which is an indication that it's not carbon dioxide GANs, but a copper or a zinc oxide GANs. And what I was mentioning is I did it twice, 2 separate batches. And the first batch, when I did the caustic conversion to get the nanocarbon, it all disappeared completely. There was nothing left. There was no precipitate. I got no little black specks in the bottom of my jar at all. The second time I did it, I wound up with this brown kind of weird looking sludge at the bottom, which is, again, something that is really unexpected. Nobody has had this, or nobody's reported this yet. There may be other people who have had this. So I'm bringing it up to say if anybody's had a condition similar to this, let's talk about it. Let's find out where the parallels are, what we did differently, what we did the same, and through that, try to figure out exactly what's going on so that we can get a system where we can set it up and we know we're going to get CO2. We know we're going to get zinc oxide. Some of the experiments that I've done with the little power cells, or the first power cells that came out, were just a nano-coated wire with what we thought was copper or carbon dioxide wrapped up in tinfoil. I did it with what turned out to be zinc oxide GANs, and it still worked. I still had the voltage. It was the right voltage. It was the same as everybody else's. So also, along with what Keshe was saying, is the actual GANs you put into your reactors isn't really that important, as long as it's 3 different strengths of GANs. Now, if I interpreted what they're talking about correctly, if you look at the periodic table, and say for carbon dioxide, you take the atomic weight of carbon and the atomic weight of oxygen and add them together, that gives you a number which represents the strength of that GANs. So if you do that with CH3, it's going to be quite small. If you do it with carbon dioxide, it's going to be a little higher. If you do that with copper oxide, it's going to be quite high. So those 3, we know those 3 work in the reactor. Now, if you don't have carbon dioxide and you replace it with zinc oxide, it's probably still going to work. It just may not be quite as effective, or someone may find one an oddball color, like I was saying earlier. If somebody comes up with a GANs that's yellow or that's purple or something unusual, let's try it anyway. And even Moran was saying, just try it. Whatever you come up with, try it, because see what it does. And that's half of the fun of this is the experimenting and going, gee, I wonder what happens. It's probably not going to blow up. It's probably not going to kill your dog. So do it.
Something else too that would complete the circle, so to speak, to cover all the bases is somebody mentioned to me once, and I can't remember. I think I read it on Facebook somewhere. I don't remember. That you have a dry GANs, you have a liquid GANs, and you have a nano GANs, which covers all 3 states, which may, that may be a criterion that we need to look at, but I don't know.
That that concept came up when they were discussing the medical reactors, the medical aspects.
Okay.
What I'm talking about using the CH3, CO2, and COO2. That's the energy system.
A different thing altogether.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
And Miran has mentioned...
That was my confusion. I'm sorry. I don't want to...
No worries.
I don't want to confuse the issue. It's already confused.
Well, that's why we're doing this, is because there is a lot of confusion out there. So let's get it out.
I've got a question, and it may, it's more like going towards, probably should have been done at the beginning, but how would you make a GANs collector?
Rubbermaid container. Hang on a sec, I'll go get one.
While John's
I
getting
go
that.
down to the 5 and dime down the street and I buy these.
Okay. Those are
And,
all over the place here.
Yeah, they're everywhere. And you can get a lid that fits on nice and tight. But for a collector, you don't really want a lid. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. Depends on what you're after. And basically, I fill that full of brine. I drop my nano-coated scrubby in. I put whatever other material down the other side or around the outside, hook them up with a wire and let it sit.
It's
Now, the
real.
wire doesn't have to be, is the wire goes between like the copper and the zinc?
Yep. And
Needs to connect the two.
And it should not be brine.
Huh?
And the
should
wire
not-
connecting the two should not be in the brine.
Should not be in the brine, okay. And the wire is just a wire to connect the two together. There's no battery or anything like that hooked up to it.
Right.
No, some of the drawings that I've seen, some people have put light emitting diodes in that wire as a load.
Yeah.
And they're saying they're getting a little bit different results, better, worse. I'm not really sure. This is something that just came out. But it's easy enough to test both. I mean, Rubbermaid's cheap.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So it's extremely easy to make a gains collector.
Yes.
Oh, yes, so easy. If you just look at the commercial Omega Quantum collectors, all it is a tank with two slots for your plates and a piece of wire. That's it. That's the whole thing.
And even those are not a very good design because that little valve at the bottom is useless.
Yeah.
Totally.
Let me tell you, I know I poured, the first time I did my initial Gans collecting material, Gans collector, I forgot to make sure that the valve was closed.
Everybody does that. I did that too. Poured my saline everywhere.
I just did it again.
Yeah,
some of us don't learn.
Design.
Go to your
Absolutely.
local veterinarian and get yourself a couple of 20 to 50 cc syringes and just suck it out with those.
Yeah. Well, you have to anyway because that little valve, when you open that valve, you're just going to get water going through first because it's heavier than the Gans.
Yeah.
And it's just stupid. So you have to suck all that off before you get to the Gans, and you might as well just, pour out the Gans, let it settle again, and suck off the top of it.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And then wash it. You draw out as much of the water as you can, and then you fill it up, fill your container, whatever, your little jar with distilled water. Give it a good shake, let it settle, suck the water off, pour some more distilled in it, give it a shake, do that 4 or 5 times, and your Gans is all clean and washed.
Maybe a suggestion, John, is that we have a couple of photographs of them actually in working order. Like you've got the CO2, which is the Omega kit that you can buy on magrav.com. That's MAGGRAV.com. I think that's Kevin's site, is it not? And that one creates CO2, doesn't it? And we're talking about different forms of Gans. That might be confusing for...
No, you can do the same thing with that same kit, but you don't need to buy the kit, is the point. You can
the
make
configuration,
the Rubbermaid tub.
it's just the material that you're using for the fields is different. That's all.
Yeah.
Right, okay. So what we'll do on Excite4, the post that I sent out to everybody is missing now, this recording, because it's offering a little bit more clarity to everybody. And I've got Jack here, he's got a question for you. He's going to come in a moment about the ping pong ball reactors. And I'm going to put these items on xi4.com on this post that you've just shown on your screen today, so that people can be sent to xi4.com so that they can get all the information on one page. Now, Jack just showed up here, so take it away, Jack. You've got a couple of questions on what happens to this now.
John, you were saying that you poke a small small hole in the top, yeah, to put the guns inside.
Well, you need to have some way to put the Gans in there. You also need some way to nano coat inside of that.
Once you've done all that, do you have to cover the hole back up, or do you leave it open?
I would cover it up.
Cover it up.
Okay, so
Just
we
a
need
piece
to
of
make
wax.
a keyhole arrangement, don't we?
No, all you can do is you can just put that 2x foot in and just stick a little bit over the hole.
If you're really clever, you should be able to find little rubber stoppers, little rubber bungs that you can, if you make the hole the right size, you just pop a little rubber bung in there.
Oh, okay, so drill a
You gotta
hole.
remember, one of them is going to be upside down. Right, the top one is going to be configured pointing down, so you want to seal it up somehow.
Oh,
And
okay, yeah, that
with a
makes
small
sense.
hole, you can just use wax, light a candle and drip a blob of wax on it.
Perfect.
Are you talking about a very small hole, like that you'll use a syringe to put the gas inside? Is that what you're talking about?
I'm gonna test a very small hole using a number 14 needle. You can get those from the veterinarians, and that way, what I'm going to do with my system once I have it ready to go is be able to fill it with your hot caustic with the needle, and then be able to draw all that out with the needle, put in fresh water to clean it out. But after it's cleaned out, it's going to be full of water. So when I introduce my Gans into that, the Gans will displace the water that's inside it. So I don't draw in extra elements from the atmosphere. No, that one on the top is going to be upside down, Dave.
So that one goes there.
Yeah.
What I was going to do is I was going to stick them all in here like that, but you're saying these want to go like that. Is that what you're saying? 1, 2, 3, like that, and then you're saying that one hangs up like that. Is that correct?
Yeah, except for the apexes of that tetrahedron would be the center of each of the balls.
So that would go in there like that.
No. The apex of your tetrahedrons, the points on there,
Yeah.
the point would represent the center of the ping pong ball.
The center of the ping pong ball.
Yeah, so that'll give you the correct spacing. Remember how we were discussing this earlier today, and I mentioned you have to take into account the length of that from the center of the ball down to where it mounts.
Okay, so in other words, I'm going to have to cut this tetrahedron and put some plates on here and drill a hole and then thread that through and make sure that the center reaches this edge of the tetrahedron here. Is that what you're saying?
You could do it that way. What I would do is use that tetrahedron simply as a gauge.
A gauge, okay.
So you've got the base of that, the base triangle would be the height of where the 3 balls are on your platform.
And they can be drilled and threaded through straight, yeah?
Yeah, so they'd be pointing straight up. And then the top one, you'd have a top plate that's considerably higher, so that when you hang the top one down, the center of that ball represents the point on the tetrahedron.
So
I mentioned earlier.
JC.
Yeah, one sec, Carl. I mentioned earlier that I have seen star reactors which are wide and flat and perfect, just like your model, and also very narrow and very tall. So whether or not that changes the condition, it's going to change the condition of the field. How it's going to change the condition of the field, I'm not certain of. So what I'm suggesting is we start with as close to a perfect tetrahedron configuration as we can get and work from there. And what was your question, Carl?
All 4 of the balls need to be spinning, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so you'd use one motor to spin those 4 balls.
With the concept that I've come up with, gluing them onto the pop bottlenecks with the bearings, yeah, you would have one belt running around the 3 at the bottom. You'd have a shaft running up that's driven by that belt as well, and that shaft spins the top ball.
Now, do you want all the balls spinning the same direction, or? Is that something to experiment with?
It appears that the top one, the one that's all by itself in the top, spins in the opposite direction.
That's what I was going
As
to
the
say.
other three. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But again, experiment. Try it.
I'm also
Right.
wondering if the phi ratio doesn't enter into this as far as the distance between those.
I asked Miran that specifically,
Uh-huh.
whether there's a ratio of the diameter, radius, or circumference of the balls that matter,
Right.
if the golden
Right.
ratio matters, if there's any sacred geometry in there. And he said, well, no, we just make ours within like 2 or 3 times the diameter of the balls, and we don't worry about anything else.
Okay, great.
Now,
Super.
again, that doesn't mean that it doesn't matter. What it means is that we haven't looked at it. So if someone has the ability to make a dozen reactors, certainly set one up that's spaced 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, 2 times the golden ratio
Right.
in prime numbers. I mean, try all of the iterations and see what it does, because
Right.
unless we
There's
do that,
something in my gut that says that has to be significant somewhere. It may not be, but
Yeah.
it just
the
feels like
golden
it ought to
ratio,
be.
for
It
some
ought to
reason,
be, whether
the
it is or
golden
not.
ratio seems important to me in this as well. But
Yeah.
Miran seems to think that it doesn't really matter.
Maybe he's just trying to get more people trying a lot of things to stumble onto something, because, you know, the beautiful thing about the way he has presented and unfolded this whole process, if you look at it right now, he has been waiting for that one guy to make that breakthrough. But in the
Yeah.
meantime, he has set up a foundation and a network around this globe that overnight can flip a switch and take down the whole oil industry, literally.
Well,
And
not
there's
just
nothing they can
oil.
do about it.
And it's
Really?
not just the gas industry. It's the
No,
oil
no, but I
industry.
mean,
It's
just as
the
an
military industrial complex. It's
hell
the
yeah.
health industry. All of this stuff.
But
And
look at the strategy in his plan. That's
Well, it's
the beautiful part.
not from this planet. I'm certain
No,
of
of
that.
course not. Absolutely not.
No,
And
he knows way too
somebody
much.
says that, but yeah, what?
He knows way too much, and what he knows is contrary to almost everything we've ever taught.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
I just can't see one man doing that on his own.
No, well, I mean, he may have, but he had help doing it. I mean, he may be the only one here, but he's not doing it by himself. But what he has done that we have seen that he has done by himself is humongous. It is just so awesome and so beautiful. The strategy that's unfolding to me is, I mean, because those people, he offered them the same thing, and they poo-pooed it and laughed at it. And now, literally, the people, he would not do it for us, but somebody, and he hoped it would be an African, and have, you know, if you look at it, here it is. You know, Alex is from Africa. And I think in the very beginning, he talked about donating one kit to every household, because from it, they could make light, heat, medicine, energy, you know, whatever they needed. And I think it's just beautiful that this little African guy comes up and says, here it is. And meanwhile, back at the planet, he's been building this network and this foundation that now, literally overnight, if everybody that's been experimenting with GANs and that bought a kit made a reactor or those little energy cells overnight, you could literally take out, you know, all of those big guys. You know, you just say no thanks, we're done.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yes, Sarah, I was speaking to Dan just before the program, or a couple of hours before the program, and Dan, if you can come in, just give us a little bit of a timeline and a little bit of an insight as to what to expect from Keshe that's going to be coming out very, very soon. Dan, if you can just give us a surface expectation in your words.
Yeah, well, the thing is that essentially he's laying it all on the line now, Dave. He was a little bit cautious until the university began running, and I guess he realized that the footing that he had set up had changed to become much more solid. You know, he's not afraid of being killed, because obviously if you listen to him, you know, physicality is nothing anyway. But the key is with the publication of the peace roadmap, this changed the whole landscape. And essentially, he came out and he said, okay, you have experienced what the technology can do. And he's talking to the leaders in this, that you have a certain, you know, after being hundreds of thousands of years having war as a normal aspect of our lives, he's saying now that you have a certain period of time in which to straighten up and fly right. So that guideline is essentially, to begin with, 90, well, really not even that, 60 days from the time that he published it, which would be August 21st.
Oh, September.
And at which time he's going to shut down or decommission a satellite, some of the warships, some of the fighter aircraft. If that doesn't work to convince them that they better reconsider their attitude toward invasion of other countries and to create wars for their own benefit, then September 21st, he's going to load up manure through and I guess it's going to be some configuration of the medical reactors, because he did say that there had to be certain, at that point, JC, he did say that there had to be certain configurations with, I guess, measurements, within certain measurements, so that you could place whatever you wanted to within the reactor core into the free plasma area. And then that would circulate to everybody on the planet who didn't have peace in mind. And I suggested, of course, sheep shit, because I lived in Ottawa and they had the experimental farm. And I tell you, when they put the sheep shit out in the corn, you didn't want to drive by it. So it could be a very interesting time. I like his comment is, you know, you can drop an H-bomb down, you're going to kill maybe a couple of million, and you'll affect those couple of million. But how do you manage to make the message plain to 70 billion or 7 billion idiots?
Yeah, I don't know if you heard it, Dan, if you were listening to the latest long-term workshop or yesterday's workshop.
I only got through the first 2 hours so far, believe it or not.
Okay, you'll find it when you go through, I think, the third video of it. He makes a really offhand comment only once about, I can't remember exactly where it is, but he makes mention that his time is up on December 21st, 2016. Now, there's lots of speculation there, but that sounds to me like a deadline of some sort.
Well, yeah, no, he brought that up several times. I agree with you, JC, that he said the deadline is December 21st, 2016.
Okay, good.
So
okay, we're going to have to get Dave back in here, because I think it's time we go over the mechanical aspect of this. Can we get you to go full screen and show us? Actually, I can do that here because I'm doing the recording. So we'll put you full screen, and if you can go over what you've done, how you built it, measurements, what you had to do to scrounge up the bits and pieces, that would be quite good.
are you talking to me, JC?
No,
Or just Dave?
Yeah, because we still haven't touched on how to make the the bits and pieces for the star reactor yet.
JC, you're talking about these star reactors, aren't you?
Yeah, if we could go through exactly what you guys did, how you scrounged up your bits, how you cut it, how you glued it, what problems you ran into, so that folks that want to replicate this have a fairly decent knowledge base to start from. Okay,
well, Jack's probably the best because, I mean, basically he's built all 4 of them. I mean, we've been playing with it together, and I just have a look over her shoulder and say, oh, how about this, how about that, and just see if I can offer a helping hand. But basically, Jack, tell us how you built that. John wants to know the mechanics.
Well, we're looking at as much detail as we can get our hands on so that folks who aren't mechanically inclined, who are seeing this for the first time, can go and get what they need and make one.
Luckily, we had 4 ball bearings that were left over from the 3D printer. So basically, we went into Tarapoto, we bought 4 bolts, 4 of these bolts and 4 nuts. And we bought which cost us, how much was it?
Oh, it's like 2 soles.
About 2 or 3 soles.
$1.
Bolts. 6 soles for 6 ping pong balls. 6 of them jumpy bastards. And the plastic bottles, we have loads of them, loads of plastic bottles everywhere, collected everywhere around the house. Basically, you go into a room, there's a bag of plastic bottles. You go into another room, there's another bag of plastic bottles.
Any specific kind of plastic bottle, though?
Well, we found these blue ones. The actual the ball race. This is a closed ball race. I wonder if you can see here, but the closed ball race squeezed in so tight. It was like it was designed to take it, and I really had problems pressing that in to the bottle top. And then Jack firstly cut off much bigger higher up. So in other words, you cut your bottle off there, and then you literally squeeze this together, because one of your specifications, JC, was do not get the head of the thread touching the ping pong ball. I think that was correct, wasn't it? So we've achieved that, and now it was based on your double ball race, bearing race, and this is a single one. So our 4 over bearings, the 4 over from the 3D printer, have been squeezed into this. So we've now got one reactor, because we've got the 4 of them sitting nicely drilled into. And you said to us that if we put them like that, we can then start cleaning them out and getting them prepared to receive the Gans. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah, because when you do your nano coating, when you put your caustic solution inside them, you want to be able to spin them. And you put the caustic in and you turn them on and let them spin for, I would leave it at least 4 days, up to a week, to make sure you have a really good nano coat inside of that. Now, again, if there's anybody watching this who has already done this, who has already coated these, because I haven't done this yet, please chime in, let us know, and we'll update everybody on specifics about the nano coating, because I'm going to be experimenting and I may melt a few ping pong balls. We'll see what happens.
John, I've got to tell you that, you know, when you've got something in your hand that feels good, this feels very good. This feels balanced, it feels nice, it feels like it's going to be what it is. So it's part of the reactor, and one of them is going to, as you say, go upside down. So we're going to have to find out how we close this tiny hole that we're going to be putting in here, as you discussed before. So, and then the 3 of them are going to be placed in a grid like our tetrahedron, as I say before. So we're going to use it, and I think you're right. I think we can use this as a pattern mold to pick up the centers. So I can put that one in the center there, and so on, and then another one there on a piece of wood, or a card, or whatever I choose to bolt this into a fixed state ready for spinning with the Gans. And then we're going to try and find a little motor now that we can connect all these up and put some pulleys on it and get them to spin, so that we create the auric field that we're going to be removing the energy out of. Because don't forget, the human body's got an auric field. So we're just literally, what did you call it before, John? We're replicating the spinning of the Earth or something like that, didn't you?
Yeah, and it's you're producing a mag-grav field, the same as the Earth does, the same as the solar system does, the same as the sun does. You're using different materials, so your field is going to have slightly different properties, but the process is exactly the same.
Okay, well, we're going to progress this as much as you, Dan, and Sarah, and these other people here who are listening very closely to Keshe, bringing this information forward. There'll be a copy of this on XI4 on the post of the Keshe latest technologies releases. So you're going to be able to get this and put this through your Facebook groups so that they can see that we're progressing until we've made one of the full reactors with the daisy chains. I think they're called Keshe B, we call them, which is going to be the next process. So we're going through a process that we are convinced is going to work. You've seen it working, John, haven't you?
Well, I've seen it on the net. I've watched them build the system live. They started from scratch and mixed it up right in front of me and smeared it on like peanut butter and wrapped it all up. And you know, once they were done, they put it on the meter and there it was. And then they showed the chain that they had built the night before and how it was wired. And then they plugged it in and they showed that it drove these two fans. And they say, yeah, these are 40-watt fans and here's our power consumption and here's what we're returning. And they had the meters right there live watching it. Like, I'm not in Italy. I'd love to be there to do this with them, but I can only do it through the net right now.
Right.
One thing I just remembered, one of the fellows who has working directly with the university, one of the knowledge seekers, had a star reactor running, and he started it up. He was waiting for the fields to build, and it takes some time, sometimes 24, 36, 48 hours for the fields to build up to be useful. So he started it up, it ran for a couple hours, and it was nighttime, so he went to bed. When he woke up in the morning, he found his reactor had ripped itself apart. One of the balls of his reactor was on the other side of the room, and it literally tore itself apart from the fields, from the strength of the fields that was being created. He replicated the results. He did it again, built another system, set it up, ran it, and it ripped itself apart again in exactly the same way. We don't have any details on why that happened. We're still working on that. So anybody who builds these systems, again, there's no guarantees. This is an initial concept. It's a prototype. You may turn this thing on, go to bed, wake up in the morning, and this thing is in pieces all over the floor. We don't know. But it's built in such a way that if it does pull itself apart, it's easy to put it back together again. And then once we know why that happens, we can design a solution for that.
Well, we should be getting, JC, some documents relating to the building, because there's an upper, on the platform itself, there's an upper portion and a lower one, which these reactors are attached to. And remember, they had slots so you could slide them back and forth. So it would be nice if they would publish, the schematics for those measurements.
I don't think we're quite there yet where we have definitive answers to these questions. We have ranges at this point. It'll work within this range. Now, how it's going to take a lot of iterations and a lot of experimentation and a lot of documentation and knowledge sharing to say, okay, 3 inches works 80%, 3.2 inches works 90%, the best one is 3.35 inches or whatever.
Yeah. No, I agree with you totally. But I was just noticing when they were showing, the pictures of the, I guess what they're going to be sending us, there was slots. If you remember one of the earlier iterations of it, you could move the reactors in and out from the center point.
Yep.
And they had this built into their new ready-made system that they're going to be sending us, so we can order. So
yep.
They
Certainly.
want us to build those at home, and I know you're a do-it-yourself guy, so it would be nice if they would, publish, how to make those slots at a proper angle. Although we could probably imagine it on our own, but it would be cheaper to build our own rather than ordering the whole.
If you want to lay it out on a board, draw a circle, draw a line through the circle, through the center of the circle, and then two other lines at 120 degrees. If you're a woodworker, if you have any experience with working with wood and you have a router, you can make the plate so that it is adjustable just like that. You just router a slot into the plate, and because of the way that I've come up with using the bolt and a pop bottle top through a bearing, you can bolt and slide that up and down on through your slots. My reactor, the one I'm going to be building, I'm not going to worry about that. I am going to set mine up at 5 times the ball diameter, which is going to be a 200 millimeter space between the holes that I drill in the board, which gives me a 4 ball width between each ball. Now, that's going to be basically, if you know anything about music theory, I wish Kevin was here because I'd love to discuss this with him. If you know anything about music theory, that's the rule of fifths, which is a chord, which is a productive heterodyne in the music. So I'd like to test thirds, fifths, probably not sevenths and ninths. They don't, they only work certain ways. But when we're dealing with a waveform, I believe these fields are in some respect a waveform. We want to either find harmonics or a sympathetic heterodyne, something that's going to augment the field itself. So that's one of the things that I'm going to be pursuing. Now, somebody could be pursuing the golden ratio. Somebody could be pursuing prime numbers, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 13, and so on. One could work with the Fibonacci sequence. There's so many different naturally occurring number sequences that we can work with. One of them's got to do something really weird or really interesting. Depends on.
Well, you're going to be the man. My tools were all stolen, JC. So the tools I got are about the same as what Alex had. A pair of scissors and a knife.
I got that right now.
I used to have a nice one too,
I think we can, we're going to make ours from the tetrahedron, and I'm going to place that on the base, and I'm going to be running slots with the jigsaw on a piece of plywood for there, so that I can get those positions of the ball heads exactly to the centers as you suggested. And then I'm going to create like a wormhole, and then I can invert that one to come down, and therefore that one can be at the center of there, and then I'll have that made up by tomorrow. So
and with that design also, Dave, you can distort that tetrahedron and see what it does.
Yeah.
Put two a little closer together, pull one a little bit farther apart, and in the morning you find out the thing has turned itself around. I mean, all of this stuff, this is all the kind of experiments that we want to get people to do.
Yeah. Okay, well, this is made out of balsa wood. Anyone can go and get some balsa wood from your model shop. And if I can do that here in Peru, you can do that as well. And then the object of the exercise would be to get the center of these balls lineable. So if we got one on the X and Y axes down here, level there with that. So if I put that on the center, and then I can get that dead right. And then so I can put the tetrahedron base on top of those. That will give me a location to bring this one into play here. So I can do that. I'm pretty confident that I'll have that done by tomorrow. So,
Yep.
and I can show a film or a picture of that.
Well, we need more mad experimenters.
Yeah.
I'm mad, but I'm hesitant to do the experimenting yet.
Yeah.
Well, that's what it's all about. And that was one of the things that came up a little earlier when we were talking about Keshe's teaching methods. And basically, he's handing you a screwdriver and saying, "Here, see what you can do with this." He's not telling us how to do it. He's saying, "This is a screwdriver. It makes things turn. Figure it out." So every iteration is going to come out. And that's an amazing way to do this, as far as I'm concerned.
Exactly, JC. But anyway, I got to go, guys. So look at, I want to thank you for your presentation, JC. That was excellent.
Well, you're
Congratulations. And as well, Dave, thank you for your input, and thank you for holding this session for us. It's something that we really needed. So,
And we might need to do it again.
yes, I got a feeling we're going to have to.
Can I?
Is it to report all my failures, right?
Hey, there.
No, absolute success to build on.
Yes. Well, the thing is, as soon as I can get some real GANs, I'll be more than happy.
Absolutely.
But, yeah, I guess everything happened so quickly before. You know, within a couple of hours, I was getting this sediment, and I'm saying, "Wow, this is great." But I've got some second thoughts about, you know, now how long it's going to take. You know, that it can be done. Yeah, I can do it. I mean, it's not a problem in that respect. It's just I'm going to require a little more patience, obviously.
I have to say that a while ago, when I was speaking about my nails in the salt solution that were making a beautiful color, it was absolutely concentrated on one wall of my kit. And I want to say that since that time, I don't know how much time has lapsed, the whole kit looks like beer. It's beautiful.
Cool.
And so it's working. So the CH3 is on his way. So,
Orange sludge on the bottom by morning.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Can't wait. How long should I leave it? How thick should it get?
Well, you're using a regular kit, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's got a sloped bottom. I'd probably leave it until you have an inch thick chunk in the bottom of that kit.
An inch thick? That'll be a month.
Leave it for 2 weeks. Leave it for a week.
Oh, my. Okay. I can do it. I can do that. I just have never left it that long. But I will. I'm tickled because those 3 little nails, and I was wondering, 2 hours ago, what the hell to put in there. And I'm already got this orangey, beautiful stuff that's brewing that, will probably work.
Yeah.
Well, congrats, Sarah.
We know something is going on.
Proud of you.
We know something.
I love this stuff. It just excites me so much. It really does. It's like you just never know what you're gonna run into from one day to the next.
Yeah,
but
we know something is going on there, Sarah, because if you were to simply take a nail and stick it in a glass of salt water, it would take probably 10 hours before you'd start to see discoloration in the nail, before it would start to act rust.
Right.
But what you're getting is
and
happening.
and you're looking at the copper wire that's connecting the nail to the nano coat, and it's not in the copper wire is not in the water. It's just the nail and the current connecting the nail to the nano coat copper. And I mean, it's just beautiful to see this stuff materialize. I just love it. I mean, I haven't done anything with it yet, and I'm excited. So,
is the copper on the outside of the container now, Sarah, or is it?
The copper on this project is on the inside.
Okay.
The last experiment was the copper was inside the water and the zinc was on the outside, and it produced a beautiful copper oxide.
Yeah.
So the zinc was, untouched. Can use it over and over and over that same way. The copper nano coat was one that I nano coated myself it's not one actually that I had soaked in the salt water. It's one that I had nano coated and then I sprayed it with acrylic. But it's flaking off. The nano coating is flaking off.
Is that right? Yeah.
But I mean, it's like it's held together with the acrylic spray, apparently.
Yeah, one of the issues that came up when they first brought the nano coating up is draining the current that collects on the nano coating before you do each bath. And I didn't do that, and I had pretty good success with it. But
I've never had. I tried to drain the charge, but it's never held a charge.
Well, it's a very, very small charge. Unless you have a very sensitive meter, it's not even going to read it.
Well, my meter looks just like Armin's in the video, but
okay. Well, that was one of the
it didn't show any charge at all. Nothing I've nanocoated showed any charge at all to drain.
That was one of the things that they mentioned when they were first showing about the nano coating, was that if you didn't drain the charge, you ran a risk of your coating flaking off.
Well, I drained the charge, but there was never one there to drain.
Okay, so there might have been some contamination on the copper. When I do my nano coating, I take one of these green scrubby pads, and I polish that copper up with rubber gloves. Get all the oil, get it so it's bright and shiny.
I did wash it with vinegar before I did it, but on the next batch that I nano coated, I did what Armin's recommendation was to soak it for half hour to an hour in salt water.
Oh, okay.
I used the same solution of, when he said salt water, I just figured it was the same solution, the same as the brine. And I soaked my plates for an hour before I nano coated them. I have not used those yet to make Gans. Those are still waiting to be used. But the ones that I did use today were sprayed, I believe, with the acrylic that we talked about before, or we talked about before, to preserve the nano coating. But
yeah, I use this.
What is that?
It's a silicone water propellant for your shoes.
Yeah. I don't remember if I got silicone or acrylic, some kind of spray.
Okay.
Anyway, I think it was silicone. I'm not sure. Might have been acrylic. Anyway, I sprayed them to protect the nano coating, and it did not flake off until I took them out and was washing them after the fact.
Oh, okay.
Then they started flaking off. So it worked, but now I don't know if it would work again. There's only a section that flaked off. One big chunk flaked off.
Was it a section that you were squeezing when you were washing them, or bumped against the counter, or?
I don't know. Might have been I had rubber gloves on, and I probably brushed my finger across it with the rubber glove on it, and it just took a chunk off.
Okay.
And so it was like under the the motion of the water as I was rubbing with my finger in the rubber glove.
Okay.
Trying to wash salt water off.
That sounds a little more like a mechanical stress to me than a procedural error.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe.
Okay.
But the rest of the plate was completely still covered.
All right. Well, if there's anything else, we're just over 2 hours now. That should be long enough for most people.
Sure.
If there's anything else anybody wants to bring up or talk about, let's get it up, or wrap up and get this video up public.
Yeah, I just wanted to say another idea of plugging the hole on that ball would be silicone like you put around a bath as a sealant.
Yeah.
It's just it's quite cheap to buy, and it might work better than candle oil or something. Just an idea.
Yeah, we know silicone is inert. It doesn't affect the processes at all. So silicon would work certainly.
Mm.
That may also be the same as a hot glue stick. I don't know.
Yeah, try it. We'll see what happens. It could not matter at all. You could plug it up with a piece of Scotch tape. I mean, we don't know. We haven't done it before.
Okay, there's a comment. Sue has commented in the chat room here on this Zoom room, and she's saying, you know, we should do this again, and we've learned so much. And I think, you know, that's what it's about, is what we're learning about every time now. And I couldn't have done this yesterday without you, John, and so on. And now I can show the people how to do them. And then we're going to be doing the Keshe beads, which is going to be creating the generator. So, you know, basically, we're all on this massive learning curve now, and we're literally learning how to build our own spaceship. So here we go.
Well, my goal for bringing it up to you right off the bat, Dave, was to get an air conditioner in Cerelius.
I just missed you there, John.
Oh, my reason for bringing it up to you in such a way is to get an air conditioner in Cerelius.
Well, there you go. We'll get the monkeys on air conditioning, shall we? Well, I can see one of these reactors going there. I don't know what the monkeys will make of it. We'll have to keep them well away from it.
We'll put it in a big steel box.
Yeah, so, but anyway, I can see these going to these villages that we're going to be moving on to very, very shortly now, because we've got 2 projects now. So we're going to be cleaning the water there, and Darko's going to be doing the seminars there. So, you know, this links the whole thing right up now, because we're moving in. We've studied water. We know how to clean the tanks now here. We're going to take the caustic. And funny enough, we're going to use the caustic soda to give us Nano, Gans, and our plate soap. So yeah, we'll just colloidal silver in the tanks to sterilize, and we'll take the caustic soda out and we'll make the Gans out of it. How's about that, John?
Perfect. That's the way to do it.
That's called repurposing. Okay, anyone else got anything to say right now, or we'll close off? Thanks very much, everybody. This has been a Mission Possible Peru special. Thanks to John with all that information. Thanks to Dan with all that information as well. That we're pooling this all together now as Keshe starts releasing this, the new piece. When all these nasty tools don't work, they're going to have to use Gans tools, aren't they, John?
That's the new way to do it.
Okay, mate. Thanks very much. And thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Bob, for coming in. And we're missing Darko, and we're missing Carl now, and we're missing Boss. I'm sure we could think of something that Boss could 3D print for this, John, couldn't we? Like a holder.
Well, I've already sent Boss a for the replacement ping pong ball. We just have to discover what the right material is.
Dan's got a lot of background noise there going on. You can hear me.
Yeah, I'm still here, believe it or not. I was about to leave earlier.
Well, I was just mentioning, yeah, you got a lot of background noise. Your kids are doing dishes or something over there.
We got the airplane going by. I'm very close to the airport.
Oh, okay. I just mentioned to Dave that I've sent Boss a STL file for the ping pong ball reactor element replacement that you can 3D print. And he has printed one. It does work. It fits really nice. We just have to discover the right material to print it in, whether it's ABS or nylon. We can't use PLA because that's biodegradable and it absorbs water. So we need something a little bit different. We discussed that with Bosse earlier. And we think probably nylon will be the way to go, but nylon's really hard to work with because when it melts, it's really thin. It's like water. So we need to do a little bit of research on materials available for that. The submerged 3D printers, the really high-end ones, they would work really good for that because you can print in just about anything, and you can make them in ceramic. I mean, the material, we've already been told the material doesn't matter as long as it fits within certain criteria, you can make it out of a coconut, piece of fruit, ceramics, wood, anything, whatever you want, basically.
Excellent. And we're working with the EM Ceramics at the moment with the Ceramista here in Peru. And what we're going to be doing now is moving the table back into the front room here. And, well, because we've got 2 ping pong balls spare, we are going to be playing table tennis.
There you go.
Good night from Peru. And
Bye-bye, everybody.
Jack, I'm going to thrash Jack with the...
Oh, you wish. You wish.
So, good night from him and good night from me and good night all. Thanks very much. It's been great. We'll get this out, John.
I will.
Night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good
Thanks.
night.
Good night.